What's up, guys? Matty here, mixandmastermysong.com. Today's video is going to be the first video of a series we're going to be doing, mixing a stereo beat and vocals with one plugin brand. Today we're going to be using the FabFilter plugins, and next week we'll do Waves and Plugin Alliance and so on and so forth. Now, the reason I want to do this is to show you guys that you don't need a ton of different plugins to make a record sound good. You can just take a little group of a bundle, like the FabFilter bundle, and buy those, and that's all you really need to do this work. And hopefully it'll be helpful so you can learn some things along the way. So with that being said, let's get into the first video of the series, FabFilter plugins. All right, guys, so here's the session. It's a song by my buddy Meekins called Say Something. You've probably heard before if you watch my channel. And you can check out the final mix on Spotify if you want. But it's basically a stereo beat with some vocals. And we're just going to mix the verse for now, just because I don't want to make this video 4 hours long. I have set up a few things. My reverb, which is just the Pro R, and it's just the basic setting. I haven't touched it yet. And then Timeless, which I honestly don't use this plugin that often, but I just have a stereo delay preset. Actually hoping that this is what FabFilter works on next, because their delay game is dated. Anyway, and then below, shameless plug, I'm using my FabFilter presets. You can check them out on my site if you want. FabFilter preset mastering bundle. And reason I have this on already, and I'll show you the settings in a second, is because I always like to mix into my limiter. And that way I know what the record's gonna sound like when it's done. I suggest all you guys do this. It can really, help your mix along, because the worst thing that can happen is you get your drums hitting hard, and not, for instance, with this mix, because it's a stereo beat, but you get your drums hitting hard and then you turn the limiter on and it kills all your transients. So it's always good to mix into your mastering chain if you can, so you know what it's going to sound like when the mix is done. So that being said, for this is the Smile preset or whatever it's called. I got a little bit of Saturn. It's not doing much, it's just warming it up a little bit. Pro C, just really compressing the mid-range here, just to kind of push those mid-range down so it can pop out of the speakers a little more. I don't really want to compress the low end or the high end, so that's what that's doing. Q is just a little basic smiley face kind of EQ. And then the L2, which, we're on the modern setting, 2x oversample, and just boosting at 4.1. I'd probably get louder, but I wanted to keep this. This is the level for the YouTube video, so I have to kind of keep it where it is. So that is the mastering chain, and those are the only things that are on right now. So let's take a listen to what it sounded like, and then we'll start working on the actual mix.
I've been dreaming on a million, chilling still on the grind. Feel like these demons in my closet, they don't want me to shine. But I've been picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. They setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16, just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Going through schemes in my head, thinking how I could blow up. Just chilling in the penthouse, elevators we go up. Some people rather have a million than a million friends. Some people rather...
All right, so you guys get the idea. It sounds pretty good. The only thing is Cam's a little low. We want to kind of push him forward in the speaker a little more, make him sound a bit more exciting, clean up a little bit of mud that's in his vocal, and that should be good, right? So what I always start with is the FabFilter Pro Q3. You can see it's on my favorites list. And I'll just cut some low end, and I'm going to play it, and we'll do this until I hear it working, and then I'll bring it back a bit, okay? So that way it will take care of some rumble and stuff you don't need in a vocal in the low end. So let's check it out.
I've been dreaming on a million, chilling still on the grind. Feel like these demons in my closet, they don't want me to shine. But I've been picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. They setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16, just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class. So that should be more than enough. You can see that this vocal might have been processed a little bit before Cam sent it. There wasn't a whole lot of low-end information, but sometimes people can have a lot of that. So you always want to be aware of that. Another quick note on Pro Q, try to always switch it to natural phase. The filters sound way better when you use that. So next we have that. We're just going to do some basic compression, right? So we'll bring up our FabFilter Pro C. We're going to do a really fast release and a medium attack here. Okay, and do like a 4:1 ratio, just a nice simple compression setting.
to start things off. And I always take the auto gain off. I don't like the way it auto gains. And I'd rather do it on my own. So let's take a listen and let's get some settings here.
I've been dreaming on a million, chillin' still on the grind. Feel like these demons in my closet, they don't want me to shine. But I've been picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. They setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16 just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Going through schemes in my head, thinking how I could blow up. Chillin' in the penthouse, elevators we go up. Some people rather have a million than a million friends.
Cool, so that's sounding better. Now you notice what I'm doing, it's just pulling our vocal forward. Because before Cam was kind of going in and out a little bit, and he was there, but I was like not quite hearing him on certain words, but certain words were a little bit stronger. So this is the beginning of us pulling the dynamic range together of his vocal. So this is step one for me, a nice light compression, 3 to 6 dB gain reduction. And then the next move I do is FabFilter Pro, actually the Pro MB. I can just bring it up on my button there. And there's the Pro MB. And here, I'm going to usually start with 2 points, right in there and one here. This one, I'm going to look for the mud and pull that back with compression. And then this one, we're going to look for harshness in the mids to highs and maybe pull that back. This is the starting range. And one thing to note with presets and vocals and all this stuff, every song and every vocal is different. So presets are always a good starting place, but on vocals especially, they only get you so far because everything's different. The room, the artist's voice, the microphone, all different. So try not to rely on presets too much when mixing vocals because every vocal is unique and it's really important to fine tune it the way it sounds, to make it sound right. So let's mess around with this Pro MB and see what we get.
I've been dreaming on a million, chillin' still on the grind. Was 16 just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Schemes in my head, thinking how I could chillin' in the penthouse, elevators we go up. Some people rather have a million than a million friends. Some people rather have a Prius than me pushing the Benz. Me, I'd rather get money than get drinks with some friends. I spent some time in Hollywood, but I don't be in this mess. How come a lot of dudes preach, but the role's on lease? I'm in the cold till next week, speed town's on freeze. And when I wonder when it's worth it, try and remember that I'm living with this purpose, yeah.
Okay, cool. So hopefully you guys could hear. I also bypassed everything, which was a pretty dramatic difference, but hopefully you guys could hear by doing these little moves. And Cam's vocal's pretty well recorded, so we're not having to go crazy on this. By doing these little moves, you can hear the clarity that came out by taking mostly this part, compressing this part, and then cleaning it up a little bit here, which we'll also do with de-essing. All right, so that's that. So the next one we're going to do is Saturn. I don't know why Saturn 2, I have to spell it out, but I do. Now, this is a saturation plugin, and you could go crazy with it, but honestly, what I do on vocals a lot, just to give it some thickness, and this is also another form of compression. Always keep in mind that saturation is compression too. But this I use a lot just for that. Some warmth, a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a sound. It gives it some thickness, and I'll usually just put this plugin on just like this. Or maybe turn it up if I want to. But we'll start with this, and we'll move this gain knob around and see what we want to do. Now you can go crazy with a Saturn, and if you have a vocal that doesn't sound that great, you can actually start using it as an EQ and change the saturation. That's a whole nother video. But for now, we're just going to use it like this in the default setting.
I've been dreaming on a million, chillin' still on the grind. Feel like these demons in my closet, they don't want me to shine. But I've been picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. They setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16 just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Going through schemes in my head, thinking how I could blow up. Chillin' in the penthouse, elevators we go up. Some people rather have a million than a million friends. Some people rather have a Prius than me pushing the Benz.
So there I'm sure you heard it when we cranked it, it was crazy distorted. Now we have it so it's just barely there, but it's giving us a little something. And when mixing, it's all about 2%. 2% here, 2% there, 2% there, and now we have a vocal that's starting to sound pretty good. All right, so let's give him a little air just because it feels like he needs it, just to push him over the top a bit and see what that gets us.
I've been dreaming on a million, chilling still on the grind. Feel like these demons in my closet, they don't want me to shine. But I've been picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. Setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16 just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Going through schemes in my head, thinking how I could blow up. To chilling in the penthouse, elevators we go up. Some people rather have a million than a million friends. Some people rather have a Prius than me pushing the Benz. And me, I'd rather get blunted than get drinks with some friends. I spent some time in Hollywood, but I don't be in this mess. How come a lot of dudes preach, but the role's on lease? I'm in the cold till next week, speed town's on freeze. And when I wonder when it's worth it, try and remember that I'm living with this purpose, yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of like what I use as my final EQ. I felt like I was getting a little bit of proximity effect in this 500 area, so we just tucked this down a bit. Gave it a little bit of highs. I really have the super highs up to 30,000 hertz. And that's because I don't need that much brightness from this vocal. And then I just felt like I could use just a little more mid-range to have them cut through. So, I mean, we're just doing a dB here. Real small stuff, but this is kind of my final step. Now, if the vocal was pretty badly recorded, this is where I might start using some dynamic EQs with a FabFilter and stuff like that. But right now, this is sounding good. And the last thing we're going to do is just put a little de-esser on and see if, it can catch a couple S's that we don't need.
I've been dreaming on a million, chilling still on the grind. Picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. They setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16 just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Going through schemes in my head, thinking how I could blow up. To chilling in the penthouse.
So that's that. It sounds really good now, right? Way better than before. And it's a little bit louder, of course, but that's that. So lastly, let's just throw a couple effects on just to give them a little more space, a little more openness. And for the reverb, we're just going to do it like a room, like a 60 hertz, 70 seconds, 0.7 seconds, and see what this starts off sounding like.
I've been dreaming on a million, chilling still on the grind. Feel like these demons in my closet, they don't want me to shine. But I've been picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. They setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16 just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Going through schemes in my head, thinking how I could blow up. To chilling in the penthouse, elevators we go up. Some people rather have a million than a million friends. Some people rather have a Prius than me pushing the Benz.
So you can hear what we're doing there. You don't really hear it, but you hear it when you take it away. And that's what we're doing. It's a rap vocal. It's not some, super verby rap vocal. It's more of a, laid back kind of boom bap type rap vocal where you don't want a lot of reverb, right? So that's what we got for that. And then this Timeless, I won't go into too much because honestly, I don't use it that much. Just got a stereo delay. We're just going to throw a little bit of that on. And that should give us a little more space and width for his vocal.
I've been dreaming on a million, chilling still on the grind. Feel like these demons in my closet, they don't want me to shine. But I've been picking up the pieces, going through in my mind. They setting traps, but I'ma see how to avoid them this time. Was 16 just selling tickets, hoping people would show up. Filled out of class and never listened when they told me to grow up. Going through schemes in my head, thinking how I could blow up. To chilling in the penthouse, elevators we go up. Some people rather have.
So that's just a little bit of that. And honestly, I don't have the tempo locked in on this, and I'd have to do that. I'm not going to waste you guys' time doing that on the video. So that would help lock that in a little more. But you could do that, or you could switch this over to a just a milliseconds and do like 20 and like 200 on either side, and that will give you a little more width too. So hopefully that helped you guys out as far as what you can do with these plugins. So that is that, guys. That is our first edition of mixing a 2-track beat and a vocal with just FabFilter plugins. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or if you have any questions about what we went over in the video. If you do need your song mixed and mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also check out my presets and courses there as well. Talk to you guys soon.